Hello. I think it works. Yeah, cool. Um, so yeah, I've almost finished Ventilator Delirium. Oh, Ventilator Delirium. Which is kind of it's not kind of. It is a satirical album about 2020 and all these like conspiracies that happened here in Australia. Not to mention the rest of the Anglophone. Fueled by the psychodrama of America and its election year politics. Um, which was fun, you know. Of course. Anyway, I can never get used to this. It's weird. Look, I have ginger. See? Ginger. Anyway, um, so yeah, Ventilator Delirium. It's a drawing. The cover is a drawing of moi on a ventilator, and yeah, it's kind of. I got the inspiration because during the pandemic, at the very beginning, we weren't sure if we'd have enough ventilators in the hospitals, whatever, just floating about. Um, and so I was like doing some research, and I attempted to get a scuba mask and sort of engineer like a hose into it, so then you could make a makeshift ventilator if need be, because we really weren't sure what it would be like. We didn't know, you know, what level of how deadly it was going to be, and how much people were going to probably need ventilators and all this thing. So I was thinking about this, and I was talking with my friends, a few of whom are like engineers from all over the place, and so we were thinking about how could we do something practical when the lockdown began, and there was this kind of hysteria around exactly how it would happen, but then of course here it changed. It was more control for the government, restricting the entire movement of people. So that just meant, I guess, they had more control over, which turned out to be the case, I guess, because here we are, like 2-3 years later, and there wasn't excess mortalities. There wasn't mass graves like there was in America, or most of the world actually, Brazil, wherever. So instead of everything sort of falling to shit like it did in many other places, we seemed to weather it quite well. But the price we paid was essentially being imprisoned inside our own houses in our own city, my own city, the city of my birth, and where I grew up is Melbourne in Australia. And so it's still got a bit of like this weird Stockholm syndrome. It's really difficult to explain fully. And I think to fully integrate will probably take maybe another year or so, to sort of realize, oh yeah, you can travel and do stuff, and it's not, you don't have to go and shop for 1 hour a day and exercise for 2 hours a day. But I mean, that's kind of generally what people do anyway, outside of the limitations of a lockdown or a pandemic or whatever. But yeah, it's like So anyway, and there's a song on the album called Dictator Dan, which I did with a K because it makes a reference to communism, Soviet Russia, this kind of thing. Also, it's a book by, my God, why is his name not coming to me? Kafka, called America. It's America with a K, not a C. And that's different altogether, but nevertheless, it's sort of playing on these references. But also, this is what sort of like I don't know what you call them, because it wasn't just the right or the left. These people on the fringes, I guess, would call our premier, the prime minister, like the governor of the state, the prime minister of the state. I don't know, whoever watches this, wherever you are, but anyway, essentially the state with within the federal system, within a bigger state, within a country, like America. It's like our governor. Anyway, people used to call him Dictator Dan, because he had this very amount of power, this total amount of power under, the executive branch of government, and la la la, and all this. And so people were really highly, because everything was online, right? Because we were locked inside, so everything was online. So there was this whole circulation of just pure. So some of it was really just pure illogical fallacies. I mean, most of it was actually, but and conspiracies that bred themselves. I mean, I almost got caught up in a manifestation in Northgate Plaza, which was really close to where I live, which is like a little old 80s, built in the 80s, 70s, 80s, like, yeah, shopping mall, I guess you'd call it. It's very small. Anyway, and then I was like, holy shit, I just wanted to do my shopping. And so I ran back home, like, because I wasn't sure, it's like helicopters everywhere. I was like, whoa, out of the blue, Just happened really fast, like within, I don't know, a minute, not even a minute. Anyway, there's a song coming up, not on this album, but I have 2 more albums I want to do. Because the previous to this, on this theme of 2020, the pandemic, there's probably going to be 4 albums that I'll create on this channel, which will be on this channel. One is called, this one called Ventilator Delirium. The other one is called 2020, in like that, like with the talking marks, which is the first one I did actually, and it's a painting of mine, and it has 2020 on it, and it's like a person wearing a mask. So that's that's just on the playlist, you'll find it. But this one, yeah, is more. It's a more sort of getting a bit more controversial, I guess, in the things I wanted to explore, and also the things which I found really fascinating at the time, as something which I thought was hilarious, or like ludicrous, or strange, or also things that I actually started to believe in. Because, we were in these very in these silos. We were atomized, right? Totally atomized, in the sense that we had no choice but to use our phones or the radio. I mean, I didn't use my phone that much, actually. I used, because I used public Wi-Fi a lot, right? So I went out on the auspices of getting public Wi-Fi just to walk around and get some exercise, whatever. But I listened to the radio, so I had fairly mediated, fairly moderate sort of ideas of what was going on. But we used to listen to the radio like, it was like in World War II or something, how you imagine, right? Like Churchill doing his speech or something, or whatever, in England, of like the so-called dictator Dan Andrews, doing his speech, and every day, how many people were infected, how many people had died, like this really funereal almost discourse, like not discourse, dialogue. I mean, there was no discourse. I mean, sometimes the journalists would ask questions, of course, but usually it was kind of more of a, like, what's the next thing we're doing, and how is this going to work, and it was all very boring, practical, but everyone was glued to it. I remember walking down the street on many occasions, and people were in their front garden or something like that, or whatever, on their veranda, on their porch. I don't know what you call it in America. Porch, I think. Anyway, and listening to it on their phone, or listening to the radio, or whatever, and it was always that, people would be holding on, bated, breath for it. There would just be, it's like what your whole life becomes revolved around. It's like the sort of declarations from a particular political individual, and I'm just thinking to myself, Jesus, man, at the age of 30, is this what I'm signed up for? I don't think so. But anyway, a pandemic, it's a pandemic, so what to do? I'm sure we'll have another one in 10 or 15 or 20 years, so, whatever, if we're lucky, yeah. Hopefully not earlier than that. But then again, there's monkeypox, so, that's affecting those of my kind, I guess. Apparently. I don't know, we haven't had much reports of this yet, but a friend of mine was lining up the other day in New York, and he's like, it's all just a line of gay men lining up to get, jabbed with, I don't know, smallpox vaccine or something that they've re-engineered slightly to attack the monkeypox or whatever. But, whatever. I mean, this is part and parcel of, where we are in the world, right? So it's this is what happens. The more you go into Africa or Asia or Latin America, presumably, these denser biological regions with with biodiversity on a level that's really not in North America, or well, it is, but it's not really in comparison, or here in Australia, whatever, Europe, obviously, not really comparable. So yeah, you're going to get these new flushes of or bloomings of viruses, which are fairly novel. Not to mention, they'll talk about sometimes the permafrost melting and the exposure to the human species, or just the atmosphere to primordial things, in frozen waste of animals long extinct, like some weird dinosaur virus or some shit. I don't know, or something like a mammoth or something, whatever the hell it is that's under that goddamn tundra in Russia or wherever it is, or Canada. But yeah, I mean, don't know what to do. You can't deal with that till you have to deal with it. Like, you don't know what you're dealing with. It's just like an alien until the alien pops up and goes, "Hello." You're like, "Oh, shit, hi." What are you gonna do? You can't preempt it. You don't even know what the bloody thing looks like. So, but anyway, I digress. So yeah. So anyway, I wrote these songs about then. For all of these, I forgot. Another one is called Vermilion Gateway. That's quite. It sort of takes on. There's a song on this called "CCP is Good," and this is actually a take of what I heard like when I was walking down the streets in the city, and they had scrolled Second Nuremberg on it's like some protesters on the Parliament's wall. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, actually? Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean Second Nuremberg? Like, it was just, I didn't understand. I understood the reference, like, of course I did, that Nuremberg was the trial of the Nazis after World War II. It was a public trial of the remaining top echelon of the Third Reich. So I get that reference, but I didn't get this idea. And of course, what they meant, eventually, of course, it clicked. What they meant was they considered the political class in Victoria and Melbourne, in Victoria's the state, but Melbourne's the city, to be similar on some level, or on some fundamental level, to that sort of level of stuff, And I thought to myself, I don't think these people know what fascism is. Not even close. If they think this is, I mean, it's like, man, there would be no way. It's like, logically, there'd be no way that you would be able to scroll that if this actually was anything like what happened in the 30s in Germany. Like, you've got to get, like, just, like, historical perspective. And anyway, I don't want to turn into sort of like this video into something else, into a political bullshit. I'm not interested. But anyway, it's just anyway. So yeah, and then obviously it came out. Oh, wait, not obvious to me, but to us, but not to you, dear viewer. That the Victorian government, the not the Australian, but the Victorian, which is, it's like saying the Californian government instead of the American government, made a deal with Mr. CCP himself, and the Belt and Road Initiative, which is actually something which is pan-Asian. It, like, almost every Asian country has made some form of a dialogue, or even European countries, actually, like, and obviously a lot of African countries, etc., Middle Eastern countries, have made connections with China. Sort of most of it is, of course, preceding the 2020 pandemic. So, and it's called the Belt and Road Initiative, and it's led by Beijing, essentially to integrate infrastructurally most of the Eurasian continent, linking back, of course, to China, and also in the process trying to strangle the only other viable candidate for supremacy in the region, which, again, if you look at history, you'll understand who that, or what geopolitical player that could possibly be in a reality where America didn't exist as a geopolitical player. So we're talking about which country that is literally next door to China? Starts with I in English. India. Yeah. Oh, Bharat. Yeah, India. So there you are. So they want to, that whole idea is, well, part of the idea is to strangle Indian ability to reach supremacy or parity with China in terms of trade routes and infrastructure and la 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 la, all this sort of shit. Again, not a politician, not interested. I don't have a political whatever. So I just, politics is for politicians, and we'll leave that there. But nevertheless, I like to make little comments, and I thought it was just interesting that these people would on one hand say like, you know, it's bad, but then at the same time they would also say, oh, the CCP is good because, you know, imagine all the money that will come from all this sort of stuff, infrastructure, la la la. So anyway, I wrote a song called "The CCP is Good," and that's something I will explore in some level with the next album. I think, I'm not sure it's the next album, but the next album in terms of this cluster of this quartet, I guess you could say, and it will be called the Vermilion Gateway. Because there's a really interesting sentiment actually also explored by a British historian called David Starkey, and it really struck me. He said it at the time. I think it was in late 2020. I can't recall when the hell he said it, but anyway, it just struck me because it was very clear and very an interesting kind of like alternative, like what if, right? Which was it's like a triquetra. It's like what Julius Caesar would say, you know, like venti vini veci, like I came, I see, I conquer. But he said like Chinese virus, Chinese solution, Chinese society. And he's talking about the UK and how they handled that in late March in 2020, and then how the rest of the world fell as, in the Anglophone anyway, well, the West fell as dominoes to it, to this thing of, you know, lockdown, la la la, which was a very Chinese concept up until, you know, the middle to the late of March 2020, and so, you know, it was like that. And I just thought this was a really interesting idea of, you know, virus solution society, like this very interesting triquetra, bang, bang, bang. So I wanted to sort of explore that too. And then I wanted to explore this integration with like the Nuremberg thing, which was, of course, that many people consider, you know, on some level, the CCP to be very similar to the National Socialist Party, which I'm not going to say because I think YouTube would not be happy with me if I say the name of the actual party that existed in Germany under a certain individual with a big moustache. So yeah, I think you can understand if you've read a history book of the last, I don't know, 80 years, what I'm referring to. But yeah, so it's so, you know, it's like that. And then the final reference to this particular song, and kind of really to this album in some respect, was a album by Serge Gainsbourg, of course. Come on now. Which is highly controversial in France and highly controversial in the subject matter, still probably even today. I think it's a very great album actually, because of just the revivalist 1950s sound of it, but also the way that he's tackling stuff as a person who is of Jewish ancestry himself. It's called Rock Around the Bunker, and there's a song in it actually called SS si bon si bon. So it means SS, it's good, or it's good, they're good, they're good. It's not there, but anyway, it's sort of like this as it rhymes. So SS si bon si bon. And I really like this song, the rhythm of it, the way that he uses his voice like it's like a snake and yet also like a machine gun. So really interesting. And he's talking about like the assassins and this and that, and he's using this very interesting thing, and then has his like backup singers who sing the refrain. So it's like si bon, and they will sing si bon, or Rock Around the Bunker is like he says the verses in French, and then in English it's you know, rock around the bunker, rock around. So yeah, I really like this. Is one of my favorite albums of his actually, because it's really dark humor. Like it's kind of humorous actually when you understand what he's saying, especially like like anti tata titon, which is like that really sounds like a machine gun. And Teuton is of course like Teutonic, like German, the Forest Asian people. Sorry, but there's also the Teutonic Forest, like where the Romans were killed back in the day. It's very notorious in Roman history, actually, the ambush of the Teutonic Forest. Anyway, but it's also Tata is like auntie, so it's this really interesting play in French of like Tata Teuton, and the way that he sings it is like ta 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 like this. So it's like it sounds like a So it's interesting to me, just this idea of the sonics, the rhythmic and the tonality, and the ideas around how to integrate that with the lyrical. So of course I've not done that because I'm not as accomplished and probably never will be as someone like that particular musician. But anyway, so that's a big one in a way. And then there are like stage 4 I just uploaded, which is about like the stage 4 of lockdown procedures. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. They were just essentially they were getting more intense and they became more constricted. And so part of stage 4 was this conceptualization, or I think it was really the birth actually of this idea of the ring of steel, what became a notorious feature of our lockdown here in Melbourne, and I think actually in a few European countries also later following its precedent. But I'm not sure about America. America was a totally different thing. But anyway, and it was called The Ring of Steel, and so that's another album. That's probably the 4th album. It's called The Ring of Steel, and that talks a lot. It's hopefully going to have more of an industrial sound, whereas like Vermilion Gateway will have more of a. I'm not sure if it's going to have like a like a Oriental sound or something like that. But I'm interested in, for example, atonal Eastern music, especially Japanese and Korean, like a gagaku and things like this, and sort of dronish string instruments, not sitar, not gourd, but more like a harp or a string or something like where you can hold the reverb of it. So I might explore that. I'm not sure, and then integrate that maybe with rap or something, just to do something really out of left field with Vermilion. But with Ring of Steel, yeah, it's going to be a lot more hopefully industrial, almost punk, because of course it separated it essentially separated the metropolitan space from the rest of the country. Actually, it's the thing which allowed Australia to really get through. Actually, now looking back, the worst of the pandemic, because it really escaped mainly in Melbourne, and kind of like that weird film Resident Alien. It's like it was we created this sort of, how do you say, like a wall around ourselves. We encased the city in a wall, like a siege wall, but the opposite direct. Like it wasn't to stop other people coming in; it was to stop us getting out. And so, yeah, the Ring of Steel is still quite a controversial thing to bring up. But I think I really find it very interesting to explore these things in relative immediacy after the fact, because I think it can get lost in 5-10 years. It will be kind of, you will lose and people will move away. I mean, people already have, but for me, I felt like it was relevant to make these now. I had them since the time I wrote it contemporaneously, so everything that I'm talking about, the sort of things that I was picking up from the media, from online, from the radio, from people in the streets, overhearing things on long walks. So, yeah, but this one, the Ventilator Delirium is the second of this series of, I guess I would call the 2020 albums, if that one is already called 2020. But yeah, that's on that theme anyway. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm working on now. I'm not sure if I will do consecutively the next two. I think I might just do something else. I kind of wanted to just detach a bit from the sort of Desi albums, I call them, the Indian influenced albums, usually about people that I've been with. So, I just wanted to do something a bit different. Yeah, and so it's like that. I'm not sure what the next album will be. I will probably look at it tomorrow. I literally just go to the piano and then I pick out on the floor. I have like a stack of albums I wrote, right? So I just pull them out and I'm like, this sounds interesting. I'm inspired by this, or I'm not, or whatever. I was gonna do Baku and Mika, but I'm kind of, still not feeling that totally. I think the other main one, probably actually, sorry, as I say this, will be the Sufi of Bihar. I do want to finish that because there's another one that I want to do, sort of like with Sing Chic and Hibiscus Convertible. They are like a pair. They are thematically the same person, essentially. It's the same muse, the same person who inspired that in me to explore. So the same with this. The Sufi of Bihar is also is the kind one, which is the EP earlier from a few months ago now. And this is just the sort of the main course, I guess, and then whatever would be the second one after the Sufi of Bihar will be called Black Rose, and that will be a whole sort of 3 album, well, 2 album, 1 EP, kind of whatever you want to call it, collection for that particular muse. So I think I will do these things. Well, I do just do things anyway. It seems as the way I work, different things at once. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to see how it goes, how this ends up going. Because with the Bihar, the Sufi Bihar, I want to create something more sounding more like drone-ish, North Indian, more Sufi-ish as well, so even Persian. But I have to I want that drone-ish sound, very haunting, sort of almost melancholic, because of course, for me, Sufism, it's not about, of course, but there is like an aspect, I think, in our understanding, our being white Western people or just Western people. I don't think you have to be white, but is that it's quite, it's a lot. The poetry is a lot about unrequited love, and that's kind of the thematic of my entire, probably of work, like my whole body of work, all of it, will be unrequited love, but and probably pure madness to even be doing this in the first place, right? But yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I ain't doing it for. I'm doing it just for myself to try and work through my shit. So it's like that. I'm just making it public for myself too in the future. So it's like that. But I've explained that before. Yeah. So we'll see. And then there's another one I wanted to do, but I forgot the name of it. But yeah, it'll come back to me. I don't know when. But yeah, so it's like that at the moment. I'm going to upload the rest of the songs, something like 2 or 3 more songs of the Ventilator. And then do the rest, smash out the rest of the Sufi of Bihar. Probably the rest of this week, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. I gotta do some gigs and stuff, and I'm gonna go and do a lot of living my life, as well as trying to do music, as well as trying to juggle some stuff, and work, and this and that, and la la. So, but yeah, it gets done, so that's alright, as long as it gets done. And I'm not sure, oh yeah, the other thing I think I said in my last kind of speak memory into the void type thing, message for my channel, was I thought I might travel, but I don't think I will, because money, like the penultimate reason, but also we're coming into like a major global recession, so like, well, possibly. So I think to myself, possibly not the best time to be gallivanting across to Europe or even to Japan or something. But that's the thing too, actually, I realized. The first place I would go back overseas to is actually to Japan, because that's the last place I actually went to, and I had a very seminal, formative experience living there. And so I would like to go back there. If it's the first time I travel anywhere on this planet, since the pandemic, since 2018, since a lot of things happened in my own personal life after I came back from Japan, which was 2018. So it's like that too, and I want to go out. I want to go out and close the circle, as it were, by starting paradoxically where I ended my former voyages to le monde. So it's like that. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. It's been not epically long, but fairly averagely long for me. This one. Yeah, keep listening, keep creating. That's more important. I want you all to create some music, and I know some of you are, of course. But yeah, and hopefully you will listen to my things or watch this, whatever. Subscribe, don't subscribe, like, don't like. I don't care. I mean, it's up to you. It's your life. It's your life. I mean, like, do what you want. If you like me, subscribe. I don't know. Super bad at selling it, eh? Yeah, thanks for watching, most importantly. And second, no, most importantly, create. Second most important, thanks for watching. Okay. Bye.